By 10 a.m., you have already made about 17,000 decisions about breakfast, clothing, email responses, and which task to tackle first. That might have been an exaggeration, but some mornings it feels like that. Now someone's asking you where to go for lunch and your brain just shuts down entirely. Sound familiar? For ADHD women, decision fatigue isn't just an end of day phenomenon. It is a constant companion, if you will, that makes even sometimes the simplest of decisions feel completely impossible or overwhelming. Today, we are going to tackle decision fatigue through the ADHD lens. We will explore why our brains hit capacity sooner than neurotypical brains, discover strategies that will preserve your decision making energy, and we're going to learn how to build systems that will reduce the number of decisions that you face every day. Welcome to ADHD and with Jorie Houlihan. I am your host, Jorie Houlihan. I am an ADHD coach, speaker, advocate, podcast host, and also a fellow late diagnosed ADHD woman. So if decision fatigue resonates with you, or if anything we've talked about on this podcast has resonated with you, would you please do me the honor of following the show, leaving a comment, and sharing it with another ADHD friend in your life? The more we can get this out, the more ADHD women we can help. Yesterday, I stood in my closet for what seemed like an eternity, but was probably only 15 minutes, trying to decide between two nearly identical black blouses. This wasn't about fashion. My brain had simply run out of decision-making capacity, and so even this tiny choice seemed impossible in the moment. So if you have ever found yourself paralyzed by seemingly simple decisions, then this conversation is definitely for you. So decision fatigue affects everyone, regardless of whether or not you have ADHD. However, those of us with ADHD brains, we experience it differently and more intensely. So let's take a look at what's actually happening when every choice starts to feel overwhelming. Our ADHD brains work harder to make decisions because our executive function operates differently. So while neurotypical brains automatically filter out all of the unnecessary or irrelevant options, our brains see every possibility. So choosing lunch means considering every restaurant in the area, every meal that you've liked in the area, every dietary consideration that people may need, every possible outcome, right? If I go to this restaurant, it's about 5 minutes farther away. Am I going to have time when I come back to finish this thing? Da, da, da. We overthink it a lot because we see all of the options. And then we wonder why we're tired. Go figure. Our working memory challenges compound decision fatigue. This is in part because we struggle to hold all relevant information in mind while evaluating the options. So by the time we get to factor 3, we've already forgotten factor 1. And so this mental juggling act depletes us of our cognitive resources sooner, and that leaves us feeling depleted way sooner than others might expect. And as a result, they don't understand why we get overwhelmed. Perfectionism and rejection sensitivity amplify the stakes of every decision. We're not just choosing an outfit. We are trying to prevent all negative outcomes, judgments, regrets, you name it. So this emotional weight transforms simple decisions into complex risk assessments that exhaust our mental reserves. So time blindness makes decision fatigue even worse. Of course it does, because we can't accurately predict how long choices will take or how they will impact our future selves. Every decision feels equally important and urgent, preventing us from appropriately allocating our mental energy throughout the day because we're trying to do all the things at once because everything feels urgent. The paradox of choice hits ADHD brains particularly hard. So more options don't mean better outcomes for us. In fact, it's usually the opposite. They mean more processing, more anxiety, more opportunities for regret. It adds more problems than it doesn't. Our novelty seeking nature wants to do all the options yesterday. Meanwhile, our executive function can't handle them. And don't forget that physical factors intensify decision fatigue too. Hunger, dehydration, poor sleep, hormonal fluctuations, stress levels, they all reduce our already limited executive function reserves. So what feels manageable on a good day would feel impossible on a day where our physical resources are depleted. Since we can't increase our decision-making capacity overnight, let's be realistic here. We're going to focus on reducing the number of decisions that you need to make at any given time. Now, I'm going to give you lots of options. And as I always say, I want you to pick one. Pick one that resonates with you the most, and you're going to stick with it for a while. Please, I'm begging you, just pick one. You know what I just said about how we want to do all the things? We're not going to do that here. Okay. Anyway, these strategies help to preserve your mental energy for choices that really matter. So the first thing is create default options for regular decisions. So pick standard meals for breakfast and lunch during the week. Choose a uniform-like wardrobe with interchangeable pieces. Select regular meeting times instead of constantly scheduling things. These defaults become shortcuts that will then bypass the decision-making process entirely. Batch similar decisions together. Instead of deciding what to eat at each meal, plan a week's menu all at once when your brain is fresh and has that energy to do it. We're going to talk about meal planning in another episode where we're just going to dedicate time to that, where I will actually show you how to meal plan for an entire month, if possible, in one sitting, and it won't be overwhelming at all. However, for right now, let's just think about the week, right? Or even a few days is fine. Let's talk about clothing. Instead of choosing outfits every morning, select 5 during Sunday's planning session. If you do a planning session, which I highly recommend, you can group decisions by type and then tackle them when you have energy and not when they're urgent. You can also use external constraints to limit your options. So shop from a predetermined grocery list and stick to it. Eat at restaurants with a limited menu. I go to some restaurants now and their menus are like 2.5 miles long. Like, what is with that? Right? Let's slim those down. Let's get rid of some of that stuff. You can't be an expert in everything. Okay. Sorry. I digress. All right. You can also use capsule wardrobes or color schemes that will naturally restrict your choices when it comes to clothing. So my father-in-law has a best friend, Howie, who wears the same outfit every day. It's always a black t-shirt, black jeans with a black belt, black socks with black shoes. That's what he wears every day. And he did this specifically to reduce the amount of decisions he needed to make in a day because he wanted to use his brain for other things. I used to think he was kind of crazy, but now I absolutely get it. Now, as women, some of you, that may be fine to kind of do it that way. But the idea is just find a couple of things that can be used interchangeably and then accessorize throughout the week. Maybe one day you wear a necklace with the blouse. The next day you'll wear that, but with a different kind of earrings, whatever it is. You just want to reduce the amount of choices that you need to make in the morning, because that is when you get yourself into decision fatigue in the morning, that does not bode for a good rest of your day. So the constraints feel limiting at first. However, they actually they provide freedom from endless deliberation. You also want to delegate or automate wherever possible. So set up automatic bill pay, subscribe to regular delivery services for household staples, use meal kit services, or you can also ask family members to own certain decisions completely, right? Delegate to your kids. Let them unload the dishwasher. That's what we do. Every choice that you remove from your plate preserves energy for the unavoidable decisions you will have to make. And you can create a decision tree with common scenarios. So map out if-then framework. So for example, if it's raining, you wear boots. Easy peasy. If energy is low, order the usual from that one restaurant. We all have that one restaurant. If conflicted about evening plans, default to stay at home. These pre-made decisions then eliminate the in-the-moment deliberations. Time box decisions based on their importance. Now, again, we have to talk about how to prioritize. We will be going into all of these in future podcast episodes. We tend to think everything is urgent and equally important. They're not. So ask yourself, in terms of time boxing based on their importance, what has to get done today, right? What has to get done today, either because it's due today or because another decision down the road can't be done until this one is done. As an example. All right, give yourself 2 minutes for minor choices like what pen to use. I know sometimes that feels bigger because I don't know what it is with us and our pens. We really do love a good pen, and we truly think every time we buy a new pen that it's going to change our life. I'm not entirely sure why we're like that. I kind of think it's a fun quirk, but anyway. So just give yourself 2 minutes for that one. 10 minutes for medium decisions like weekend plans, and then schedule out dedicated time for major decisions. When time is up, you either go with your gut or you could just flip a coin. I'm a big fan of coin flipping. It is actually quite helpful a lot of the time. Reducing decisions isn't about being rigid or boring. And I know a lot of you are going, this sounds like it's going to make me really boring. It isn't. Trust me. It is about being strategic with your mental resources so you have the energy left for creativity, relationships, and the parts of your life that actually bring you joy. I've talked in the past about capacity versus capability. This is definitely a capacity issue, right? We want to make sure you have the capacity to do all the things that you're capable of. And so when we can reduce that decision fatigue, that's just one of the ways that we can. And by doing this, as I just said, it's strategic. It is honoring how your brain works so that you can set yourself up for success. Now, even with the best of strategies, even with the best of systems, decision fatigue is still going to hit. So now let's talk about how to recognize when you are depleted and then what to do when every choice starts to feel impossible at that point. First, learn your early warning signs. I say it all the time. Know what your patterns are. Maybe you start taking longer to answer simple questions. Maybe you start feeling irritated with restaurant menus or find yourself scrolling endlessly without deciding on anything. Maybe you are deferring every decision to others or feeling paralyzed by your inbox. Recognizing these signals helps you to intervene before you have a complete shutdown. We want to recognize these things sooner because then you can have things in place that are going to help you before you become completely paralyzed. I'm going to encourage you to start developing a decision fatigue first aid kit, if you will. So when you start to notice the signs, immediately simplify everything. Eat your safest food, wear your most comfy clothes, cancel those non-essential plans, and give yourself permission to make no unnecessary decisions for the next few hours. And while it sounds like it, this isn't giving up. It is strategic recovery. Use body-based resets to restore your cognitive function. So it can be like taking a walk without your phone. Ooh, that would be a new one for me. Doing 5 minutes of stretching, taking a shower, practice deep breathing. Physical movement and sensory changes help to reset your nervous system, and that can then restore some of your decision-making capacity. Create decision-free zones in your day. So maybe mornings are completely scripted or evenings follow the same routine. Maybe Sundays are for following impulses without judging them. I think that could be a great adventure for a lot of us. What do you think? I think that would be. So those pockets of rest allow your brain to recover between decision-intensive periods. Practice radical acceptance when decision fatigue hits. Instead of pushing through or berating yourself, please watch out for the self-talk. Acknowledge that your brain has worked hard and it needs a rest. And that's it. There's no judgment. Just be curious. This isn't a character flaw. It isn't laziness. You got to watch out for that self-talk because that's what we're going to start. That's going to be a default for a while for a lot of you. It is a neurological reality, and that's it. That's it. There's nothing to it. Nothing more than that. Accepting this reduces the shame spiral that will inevitably come otherwise and will, of course, make everything 1,000 times worse. You want to build in regular decision detoxes. You can schedule times where someone else makes all the decisions, like maybe your friend chooses where you're going to dinner, or you find some random generator that will help you pick a movie. just something where somebody else is deciding. And that's okay. You don't have to make every decision yourself. And those kind of decision making breaks can then help prevent cumulative fatigue from building up over time. And remember that decision fatigue is temporary. Thank goodness, right? It's temporary. It's not permanent. With rest, your capacity will return. The goal isn't to never experience decision fatigue because that's an impossibility. It is about recognizing it, recognizing when you're heading towards it, even more would be even better, respond appropriately, and then build systems that make it less frequent and less devastating when it does occur. And lastly, please, please remember to look at all of this through the lens of curiosity. If you find yourself in one of those moments where you're like just having that paralysis, right? The decision fatigue is real. Don't judge yourself. Just say, okay, this has happened. What happened right before this? Or what kind of decisions have I had to make today that maybe I can rework somehow? Again, just be curious. There's no judgment. There's no judgment necessary. It is what it is. You're still learning and you're going to be learning your whole life. That's life. And that's for everybody, not just people with ADHD. We have different things that we have to be curious about than neurotypical people, but everybody, we're always evolving. So, and that's a good thing. All right. So today we dove into decision fatigue and why it hits ADHD brains especially hard. We explored the neurological reasons behind it. We discovered practical strategies that for reducing daily choices, and we learned how to recognize and recover from when decision fatigue strikes. Remember, experiencing decision fatigue doesn't mean that you're weak or incapable. It means you are human with a brain that processes information differently. And that's okay. By working with your wiring instead of against it, you can preserve your mental energy for the decisions and activities that truly matter to you. This is about making sure you have the mental capacity to be present and allow yourself to be in those moments that actually mean something to you. So, as always, thank you so much for joining me today and being a part of this community that understands the unique challenges that comes with having an ADHD brain. It is never boring. So, if today's episode hit home, please follow the show. Leave a comment. Tell me which of the things that we talked about today are you going to start with? Remember, start with just one. And also share this with a friend who maybe really also struggles with decision fatigue like we do. Again, the more we can share this, the more ADHD women we can help. You can also check out my favorite things list where I put together all of my ADHD related and even some non ADHD related things in one place. And I'll have the link for that in the show notes. Please remember, every decision you don't have to make is energy that you can spend on something that matters. And most of all, please remember, ladies, be curious.